Well, we're here on National Ag Day, and the market's a little bit back and forth, just like we've seen most of the last couple of days. Kenan Layden joining me now with agmarket.net here on the daily market summary. And Kenan, what did we see come out of that grain trade today?
I think you described it very well, Dustin. Just kind of a back and forth all day. Corn closed up, about 3 cents higher front month. Beans sold off into the last hour of the day, having losses. Wheat was up anywhere from 2 to 5 cents, depending on the type and class. And then, soy oil and canola were higher on the day. Crude was also $4 higher. So, continued to be some Iran-U.S. relation unrest or lack of resolution, which doesn't bode well for fertilizer prices and keeps some volatility within these grain markets. And then that RVO announcement, which should affect the soy complex and anything associated with oil, is slated to be released in the next 7 days. That's probably the major news item. EPA said it will be released in the next 7 days. The speculation is we might hear about that Friday night at a White House event, but market's looking forward to that. And then the planning intentions report, which comes out, prospective plannings report, which comes out next Tuesday.
So, looking at this announcement, I know everybody's speculating that it hopefully should be good for the biofuels industry. Do you think that the market, especially in soybean side of it, has already priced that action in, or is it going to be a wait and see what the announcement really is?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a lot of speculation that it is buy the rumor, sell the fact type of information. You hear that more and more lately. The market's priced it in. Anything that's not new or above what the market's already expecting or worse than what the market is expecting could cause some sell-offs in those oil complexes. And I guess a lot of managed money longs in those positions. Charts have been floating around that the soy, meal, and oil complex is almost as long as managed money has been in it ever historically. Canola is also at a very long managed money position. So anything that spooks them out could cause some market weakness. Just it is one factor in soy oil demand and oil demand as a whole, but it is an important one. So no one knows exactly what it's going to be and how the market's going to react, but a lot of buy the rumor, sell the fact kind of talk, which seems to be going around currently.
And I guess one other question concerning the soybean market for my edification here. When this whole conflict started and oil started skyrocketing, it took commodities along for the ride. But now, as this fertilizer issue has settled in, a lot of farmers are maybe rethinking what crops they're going to put in, and we could see a shift to some higher beans. Does that have any weight on that market right now? It's been putting that pressure these last few days.
Yeah, there might be some of that pricing it more into new crop where fertilizer needs haven't been bought yet. Looking at the spreads there and kind of where managed money is putting their long. Some of that might be more in the new crop in case this conflict continues to increase. If you remember last Monday, May soybeans were limit down, May and July, but the rest were not. So, taking a little bit of premium out of this market on, maybe the conflict resoluting in the near term, but being persistent long and fertilizer prices staying long into the rest of the year would be kind of what it's looking for. There's been some debate on whether we see a big acreage switch to soy this year, and one view is no, probably not. It was a good fall. There was a lot of nitrogen-based fertilizers bought and applied in the fall, a lot of prepaying being bought. So as a whole, you might not see a big acreage change this year, but like you said, Dustin, if commodity prices don't keep up with the price of the fertilizer and the price of, inputs, you may see some type of acreage switch or some interesting decisions which have to be made on what to plant for next crop here.
All right. Well, then switching gears over to the livestock side of things, Kenan, what do we see in those cattle and hog markets today?
Yeah, cattle were higher on the day, which was nice to see. You know, that trade's been, if you look at a chart, it really hasn't gone anywhere. It's kind of trending down. There's a downtrending pattern. Um, the cash and March board, the feeder cattle index, and the March board, those things are almost settled together at this point. So actually been pretty quiet over there compared to the grains, which isn't what we've been saying most of the year. But um, cash continues not to break would be one way to look at it. But it's not like cash is making new highs. The feeder cattle index isn't at new highs. It did have a 16-day streak where it decreased, which was the largest that our records indicate, as far as they go back, for consecutive days of FCI decrease here, that ended last week. But cash isn't falling apart, but it isn't necessarily a driving force making the future markets go higher as it had been, when I had talked to you a few times in the past.
And then looking at the hog side of the livestock complex, I know they've been under pressure the last couple of days. Did that continue?
Yeah, a little bit of sell off in the hogs today. Maybe hit some technical resistance there today. But yeah, they've been selling off pretty good. Soybean meal and some of those feed sources. I read some stuff about that, but that V-shaped down, you see those V's in hogs, and it seems to be continuing. Maybe found some footing here recently.
All right, Kenan. Well, if folks want to take a look at some of the analysis you guys have or think about some of the marketing plans they should be thinking about, especially when it comes to the new crop 26 and what we're all, protecting ourselves in this volatile time, what's the best way for them to get that conversation started?
Yeah, just go to eggmarket.net and request some information.
All right, Kenan Layden's been our guest here today on the Daily Market Summary. Thanks so much, Kenan. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Dustin.